So if you're not familiar with Youth Impact, you should be. It is a phenomenal organization in downtown Ogden it's an after-school kind of youth program that gives these kids some phenomenal opportunities to grow and to learn and to just become better citizens. And we are so grateful that they're here tonight. And on that note, I don't know that he wants me to brag about him, but I will. Coach Ed Eyestone, who we get to hear from tonight, he, along with some of his resources and connections, was able to get Nike to donate a new pair of shoes for each one of these participants here. And what a cool thing he's given back to our community. So, on that note, tonight we get to hear from Coach Ed Eyestone. Coach Eyestone is one of the most accomplished figures in American distance running. He's a 2-time Olympic marathoner, a 10-time All-American. He's the only athlete in NCAA history to win the 5K, the 10K, and cross-country national titles in the same year. Today, he serves as the BYU men's head coach for track and cross-country. He's had multiple National Coach of the Year honors, and he's led his team to national NCAA championships. He represented the United States in the marathon at the 1988 Seoul, Korea, and 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games. And he's enjoyed other successes in his running distance career, including major road races such as Bay to Breakers and Peachtree Road Race. Coach Eyestone is also a local, having grown up in Washington Terrace. So it's nice to have him back with us. As a coach, he's become one of the nation's premier developers of elite distance runners. Under his leadership, BYU has produced NCAA champions, All-Americans, and multiple Olympians, including marathoners Connor Mance and Clayton Young. His teams are known for their discipline, depth, and consistency, and his coaching philosophy blends scientific training principles with decades of competitive experience. So whether guiding collegiate athletes or mentoring future Olympians, Coach Eyestone has built a legacy defined by excellence, resilience, and deep commitment to the sport of distance running. Let's welcome Coach Ed Eyestone.
Thank you for that introduction. It's great to be back here. My parents, after graduating from Bonneville High School, my parents up and moved out of Ogden, out of Washington Terrace, so I don't really get the opportunity to come back that frequently other than class reunions and things like that, but every time I do, love these mountains, and great to be back here. I had a chance to meet with the Youth Impact of Ogden group here before. Again, let's give it up for our Youth Impact people. As we were checking out the new Nike shoes, I asked them, what exactly is the Youth Impact group of Ogden all about anyway? And they told me, basically, the important things that they like to do is, one, show up, which is really important. Isn't that kind of the key to life? Just to show up. You guys have showed up here tonight. If we're at our jobs and we have employees that show up, that's a good thing, right? That's the first step. If you have classmates and there's empty seats there and they haven't showed up, then that's a missed opportunity on their part. So showing up was an important thing. They said, get good grades. And all of us sitting here, all of you anyway, sitting here, I imagine we're in a place where you got good grades to put you in a place where you could contribute, do the good things that you do, and then just be good people. Those are the three things that they shared. I really appreciated that because I think those are all good mottos to live by. Teresa Pasquedra reached out to me a couple months ago and asked me if this would be a possibility to come down here and speak. And Teresa and I go way back because when I first got my job at BYU, one of the things that we try to do as coaches, you got to recruit good people to come and run for you, because if you have so-so people, that's great. You can bring them to a certain point, but if you have really good people that you recruit, well, the sky's the limit. And Teresa, at the time when I first met her, she had one of the fastest kids in the state. In fact, one of the fastest high schoolers in the country. And I thought, man, I've got the Ogden connection going here, so I'm going to be, I could do some inside stuff, saying, oh, you ever go run on the trail system there, or how about that South Ogden? Isn't that a great place to go for a long run at, and whatever. Thought I was doing a great time until I signed at the University of Oregon, and I missed out on that big fish. And he did okay, because in 2016 he finished 4th place at the Olympic trials, and did a wonderful thing. Now if you drive through Eugene, Oregon, which as a track coach I get up there probably 2, 3, 4 times a year, probably too many times a year. If you go around on the real estate signs, all the real estate signs are saying, buy your home from Luke Busquedra. I think he's doing pretty well. So good job, Teresa. Where are you, Teresa? Let's give it up for Teresa. She's our executive director, put this whole thing together. So there she is. All right, good job. And Luke's kicking butt there. He's awesome. I'm still mad that you didn't send her to BYU, though. Okay, we've done okay, I guess, without him, but he's done just fine. We have a new athletic director at BYU, and it seems like every time I go to a thing, he'll give us his origin story. And I thought, that's kind of nice. I'm gonna give origin stories a little bit for you guys, so you can appreciate my roots. As already has been mentioned by Mr. Ardema, I'm an Ogden native, but I did not get my start there. If you look right there, that is the Eyestone family circa 1961, and this fat little baby right there is yours truly. My parents had taken an assignment for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Samoa and Tongan Islands. He was actually a plantation manager down there. They had several plantations, and so our whole family was down there. They went down with my 3 older sisters and brothers, and they came home with me. And so that's where I got my start in American Samoa. So I guess I could run for the presidency because Samoa is a territory. American Samoa is a territory. I don't know if that's in my future. But it was a good place to get a start. And then we came up, and my dad did a 180 completely, and he decided that rather than to continue in his farm background and go up to the dairy farm back in Rexburg, he decided he was going to go to Utah State, get a degree in counseling, and then he worked in the Ogden City School District for about, 40 plus years as a counselor in Ogden City Schools, and my mother became a teacher, Ogden High School. If you had a home economics class or clothing and textiles, you may have had it from Virginia Eyestone. So we settled in Washington Terrace, and growing up, my big goal was I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I could tell because I was so skilled. You can tell with those fat baby muscles right there that I was just going to be an amazing athlete, and I wanted to be a professional baseball player. Back then, I think baseball maybe had a little bit more cachet value. I think maybe, it seems like basketball and football maybe has surpassed that. But back in the day, baseball, love baseball. And, we talked a lot about setting goals, the importance of setting goals and have long-term goals. Well, long-term goals, I want to be a Major League Baseball player. Short-term goals, played Little League baseball, played junior high baseball, high school baseball. I'd probably get drafted out of high school, but I knew my mom would want me to go to college, so figured I'd go to college, play somewhere there, and then upon graduation get drafted, spend maybe a half a season in the minors before getting called up to the majors, and it was just a matter of time before I was a MVP of the World Series. And so, that's how you are when you're a certain age. And everything was going according to plan all the way through about 6th grade. And so you can tell, again, what an athlete right there. Yeah, particularly, pulling out the black socks to wear on pitcher day was probably not the best idea as the under sock to my baseball socks. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a member of a team. Here we are, the Washington Terrace Pirates, and had a great time. And everything was going according to plan. I was playing at a very high level of Little League baseball. But then the problem came when suddenly you transitioned from Little League to junior high baseball. And Mr. Ardima mentioned that I grew up in Washington Terrace, went to T.H. Bell Junior High School. And at T.H. Bell Junior High School, there was a difference between paying your money and being automatically on the Little League team and then being on the junior high team. The difference is a thing called a tryout. Okay, you actually had to go because I didn't have enough uniforms for all the kids who wanted, so you had to actually go and try out. And so for 2 or 3 days, I went, demonstrated the athletic skill that I had, ran the bases, hit the ball, catch, threw, whatever. At the end of those 3 days, I knew I was a shoo-in. I was a 7th grader. I knew they were only going to keep a few 7th graders because they had other 8th and 9th graders who were more mature and everything. But with that athlete physique and that, that killer look, there was no doubt that I was going to be one of the top picks. And so one of the more exciting days was that day when I went to they were going to announce, I think Coach, it was either Coach Cottle or Coach Gardner, was going to put a list on the PE door. And it was going to be a great day. And I got there extra early, Abby, and sure enough, we got there, and the door was already surrounded by all these junior high boys, and they were looking and going. And finally, I pushed my way to the front and went down. Ed Eyestone, Ed Eyestone, Ed Eyestone, Ed Eyestone, Ed Eyestone. I didn't see my name there, and I just said, well, okay, they spelled it wrong. Maybe it's Stone Eye or however, Einstein or however. So I went down again. Eyestone, it was not there. And then I thought, well, maybe. I played so well, maybe the coach wanted to give me a personal invitation. So I stuck around until I think it was Coach Cottle showed up and was in his little glass enclosed office and knocked on the door and I said, Coach Cottle, was there anything you wanted to tell me? And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, I didn't see my name on the list there. Was there a personal invitational you wanted to give me because I was so good? And he said, what's your name? I said, Ed Eyestone. He said, oh, yeah, well, you know what? You tried hard, son, and bless your heart. Anytime you hear bless your heart, it's a lost cause. And he said, you're welcome to come back next year and try out, but this year we don't have enough uniforms, and we're not taking that many 7th graders, and it's not going to happen for you. And up to that point, that was my dream. That was my goal. I was going to be a professional athlete, and I was going to be in the baseball area. And as I remember, I was so pathetic, I walked home that day. And as I walked home, I walked by. I went out, I usually go out the north exit. I went out the south exit of the school because the baseball field and the football field was out there. And I walked by, and I thought maybe Coach Cottle would see me and go, oh, you know what? We really need that skinny kid at Eyestone. So I walked by, and no, he didn't notice. And I walked. To make matters worse, some of my good friends made the team. You know how bad that is? And I knew I was better than them, and they made the team, and I didn't make the team. But as I walked by that way, I noticed that there was some other kids. This is spring of the year, right? So the spring of the year, baseball is the only sport going on. Wrong. There's another sport in the spring of the year. That sport was track and field. We didn't have a track at our junior high, but we did have a football field, and around the corners of the end zone, they had those traffic cones, and the kids were running laps around the traffic cones. And I realized for the first time, hey, there's another sport in the spring, and if I can't be a baseball player, then maybe I can go out and run this track thing. And so I went home, told my folks. They said, that's fantastic. Dad had actually run in high school and college, so he started telling me all these stories about running. And immediately, I went from wanting as my main goal to be a professional baseball player to maybe someday running in the Olympic Games. That's just kind of the way things go. And I was not great. I'm calling you Mr. What's your first name? Sorry. Crit. So Crit tells me before. Crit Ardima. So he tells me, as we're talking before, and I know his father. His father happened to be the vice principal at T.H. Bell Junior High School where I was going to go to school, Ralph Ardima. And I remember Ralph Ardima. One time, we came back from summer. You don't remember this, but it scarred me, so I still remember it. We came in to sign up, and he goes, Eyestone, one of these days, you're actually going to grow and get taller. All these junior high kids come back, and they haven't gone through puberty yet. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, but I can probably still run. And it was kind of a fun thing because, I totally got where he was going from because I was not the biggest guy, the strongest guy in the world, but I was doing what I could. And so was not great early on in running, but little by little, I really enjoyed it. And it was one of those sports where I found that the more you put into it, the more you got out of it. And even though I wasn't super fast to begin with, I knew that I could beat most of the 7th graders, I could beat some of the 8th graders, and I could beat a few of the 9th graders. And I remember thinking, if I stick at this, by the time I'm a 9th grader, I might be the best guy in the junior high. And lo and behold, I was. I was the best guy in the junior high by the time I was 9th grade. Not phenomenal, didn't have any amazing times or anything, but when we connect our passion with the right sort of mentors, amazing things can happen. And probably one of the mentors that had the most impact in my life was a man that was the high school teacher as we went from T.H. Bell to Bonneville High School. His name was Neville Peterman. There he is right there, and there I am with my long hair and my acne-covered face back in the day. And I had this mentor who came to the junior high, recruited us, and said, hey, come run a sport called cross country. You'll get to run every day in the summertime. You'll get to do some things. I had no idea what cross country. In fact, I was so silly, I remember thinking, cross country, so we go from California to New York? What's that's a long way to go, coach. And he said, no, it's silly. It just means that we run on golf courses, and it's kind of fun. And so that's how I got my introduction to high school cross country. But the great thing about Neville Peterman is he was passionate about it. He had run in college himself. He introduced us to a whole new world of sport. We had no idea that cross country existed until he came along, and then he introduced us to things like Track and Field News, which is the Bible of the sport. Who knew that there was a running publication that had all the stats you would ever want to know and more about track and field? He introduced us to, hey, guys, turn on the TV. It's going to be the Olympics here coming up. You're going to see some phenomenal athletes. And he introduced us, when we got into the high school, he had a period of first period was a running class. Who knew there was a class you could take in the morning that was conditioning, where basically he said, okay, go for a 5-mile run, and then after school would run again. And so as a result of his kind of passion and tutelage, we got really pretty good for a bunch of little sophomores and juniors. And I was probably about the 40th best kid in state. In fact, that sophomore year, I was 40th in state, which is pretty good. And I'm still thinking, okay, this Olympic thing's got to kick in at some point in time, right? 40th in state probably isn't a clear shot that you're going to be winning any Olympic medals or even making the Olympic team. And so, but something, and I think it was probably happened between my sophomore and junior year. And I think that something was that I finally got a little more testosterone in the system, kind of went through a little bit of puberty or something going on there, because all of a sudden in our summer workouts, I was doing better than I had done before. And I remember Coach Peterman, he was one of these coaches that kept stats on every little workout and every little time trial and whatnot. And I remember him saying, Eyestone, you ran this course as fast as Greg Kent did, back 3 years ago when he was the state runner-up. So you're doing pretty well. You're on a good trajectory. And he showed that he had belief in us. And nothing is more empowering than having someone really believe in you, that you trusted. And so as we got ready for the cross-country season to start, my junior year, he said, I want to tell you something. We're going down to this invitational down in Provo, and you're running pretty well. And I want you to go down there, and I want you to run with the kids up front, and I want you to see if you can beat a kid named Wayne Pinto. Okay, now none of you are showing the reverence or the appreciation that you should for the name Wayne Pinto. But let me tell you something. Wayne Pinto in 1978 was the running god of Utah, okay? He was the kid that, and if I ever tell this story at any high school or any group of high schoolers, I'll say, who's the dominant kid in your area? hands will shoot up. They'll all tell me, oh, it's Jane Hendgren, or it's so-and-so. No matter what state you're in, when I say, who is the running god in your area, they will all give me names because there's someone who's usually the dominant figure. Wayne Pinto was that person in Utah back in the late 70s. And I remember my coach saying, you're going to go down there, and I want you to try to run with Wayne Pinto. Now, Wayne Pinto was the running god for a few reasons. One, he won every race he'd ever run in high school up to that point. And he went to, two, he ran at Davis High School. Davis High School had the ugliest uniforms, but they were really gritty, okay? They were these brown and yellow uniforms that made them look extra tough, like they were in the Army or something, okay? Maybe they still do. Am I offending people from Davis High School? Oh, Davis Darts, they still have those ugly brown uniforms, don't they? Okay, so he wore these, really impressive uniforms. And then he could win a race any way he ran it. So that, he could run a slow tactical race with a sprint finish, he would win. If it was a grinding race from the start, he would win. If it was a surging race, he would win. So he could win a race any which way. And then I think the other thing he had going for him, he was a Native American from the Navajo tribe. And during the summer times, he would go down to the reservation. And there were all kinds of rumors about the things that he did down there. And my history had been, and my understanding, and what I've seen is that Native Americans, particularly from the Navajo Nation, are very good endurance athletes. They're just very good. I didn't know why, and at the time I had no reason to know why, other than there were rumors that he was down there in the summertime. He would herd sheep. Someone said that he hunted a deer one time by just running it down on and then took it out with a knife. So impressive stories, and all of them built on the legend of what was Wayne Pinto. And so as I went down and traveled with my team down there, I remember Craig Galloway was sitting next to me in the bus and said, Ed, what's your plan? And he said, well, Coach Peterman said I should try to run in the lead pack and try to run with Wayne Pinto. And he said, really? He said, you run with Wayne Pinto, your heart will explode. And because he is the running god, we all know that, and he's never been beaten. But I said, Coach Peterman thinks I can, based off the workouts, I'm going to give it my shot. So we got down there, sure enough, big invitational, first invitational of the year, probably a couple hundred high school kids. Gun goes off. We all went out super fast, and sure enough, there was Wayne Pinto. He wasn't super tall. He was more compact, but very strong. And his legs were kind of the tree trunk sort of legs that were strong and powerful. And as we ran, I was like, where's Wayne? Where's those ugly brown and yellow uniforms from Davis High School? And sure enough, there he was in the lead pack, and I'm going, I'm running in the same pack as Wayne Pinto. This is so cool. And back then, you would run 3 miles in high school and in cross-country race. And the first mile, I'm still there. Everybody went out way too hard. That's the typical MO for most high school races. You just try to put yourself there for as long as possible. And I was there, hanging there with everybody. But after a mile, a lot of people had dropped off. And now it was down to about 8 or 10 people. But I'm still in the same pack. And Wayne is waiting. He can win it any way he does it. But this particular one, he waited a little bit. And then, boom, goes to the start and starts putting some pressure on. And as he put the pressure on, he started, the pack started stretching out a little bit. And I was still trying to hold on. And I was going, well, okay, it's down to 5 or 6, but I'm still here. And there's Wayne Pinto. This is great. And we continued on. Then my hope was just to make it to the parent area. Okay, every cross-country race has what we call a parent area. Parent area is basically a place where the course loops around a few times, and the parents who are too lazy to go out on the outer skirts of it stay in the parent area because then they can see them come by multiple times. And I went, I want to be at the parent area because my dad will be there. He'll be wearing his cowboy hat. He'll yell something. Usually his go-to, all parents have a go-to, right? His go-to was, run him into the ground, Ed. I had no idea what that meant. I think it was something from World War II. And sure enough, I made it to the other thing that's great at the parent area is there's usually somebody from the local paper, the Provo Herald or whatever it's called down there. And and I knew if I made it to that point, and if I was close enough in focus to Wayne Pinto, they would take his picture and I would be slightly blurred behind him. And so sure enough, we made it to the parent area and the pictures were taken and that was great. And now it's down to about 3 of us and a kid from Davis, myself from Bonneville, and a kid from, I think, maybe Viewmont. And then we had made a long traversing pass and then down to about a half mile. And as we dropped the kid, and I was the last guy. And it was kind of like, I'm the lone survivor, okay, hanging on. I'm going to be the last guy standing other than Wayne, right? And he's putting on one of his surges, and I'm just hanging on for dear life. And then as we made this turn, his foot kind of caught on a tree root. And he didn't fall completely down, but it was enough of a stumble when instead of having a nice long stride, it kind of cut his stride. And suddenly, instead of running off his right shoulder, suddenly I was dead even, running side by side with Wayne Pinto, the running god. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is so good. Coach Peterman was right. And then we made a long turn, and then it was about a quarter mile downhill, and it was downhill and downhill. I wasn't the best uphill runner, I wasn't the best sprinter, but I was a really good downhill runner because I was a little taller and gawky and whatever, and I could just kind of bonsai it down. And as we started rolling on that downhill, I opened up my stride a little bit. We're going, and I started, and sometimes you're recruiting, I went, okay, I've got the lead. I'm going to try to push it, and I'm going as hard as I can. And that finish line is not getting any closer. Sometimes if you go too soon, then you know, oh, no, I sprinted too early. I'm not going to be able to hold this. I was waiting at some point in time. Am I ever going to get to the finish line? And then you're sprinting for all you're worth. You realize you're kind of tapped out, and then you're trying to recruit every muscle, and suddenly you lose your form, and your leg starts coming out on the side, and that's not a good look, but you're trying to go as fast as you can. And finally got to the finish line. I knew Wayne had a devastating sprint, and he could come by at any point in time. I hit the line. I was ahead. I turned around. Wayne Pinto was just right behind me, and I was so excited, foaming at the mouth, saliva everywhere. This tall kid with bad hair and worse skin, jumping up and down, saying, I beat Wayne Pinto. I beat Wayne Pinto. Wayne came back right behind me. High five. I think we invented the high five because before then it was like sock it to me, baby. But then I think we gave him a high five, and it was the best day of my life. Best competitive. I mean, I've been in Olympic Games, but I think it was one of the best days of my life. Okay, and I found out later my cousin was on the Davis High School team, and he said Wayne had been deathly sick, wasn't even going to run, and then he ran anyway. So, thanks a lot, cousin. Way to build my self-esteem. But something magical happened that day, and I think what it was because my coach had believed in me and believed in my training, and then he inspired me to do something to get out of my comfort zone, and I pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and Wayne was deathly sick. Okay, I'll go with that. But I won that race. And from that moment on, all through the rest of my high school career, because I was a junior at the time, and Wayne was a junior at the time, and we didn't match up a whole lot because Davis was 3A, Bonneville was 4A, so we didn't really run against each other that often. But from that moment on, every time I found myself going into a race, and I found myself getting nervous because Mark Wayment was in the race or any other cast of characters, I would just say to myself, wait a minute, you beat Wayne Pinto. Wayne Pinto is the running god, and if you can beat Wayne Pinto, you can beat these other schmoes. They're nowhere close to Wayne Pinto. And as a result, it kind of transformed my confidence level going into races, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. And I also think something that I learned from that experience was that even though this was at a lowly, invitational in Utah back in the 70s, it was a big deal. And the feeling that I had from that, I had other great experiences later in college and professional career that lasted about 20 years and in the Olympic Games. But the feelings that I had doing well in some of those events wasn't really any different than that feeling and vibe and that feeling of great accomplishment from stretching a little bit on that day and doing the best that I could, having a coach that believed me, and beating Wayne Pinto. So let's celebrate the times when whatever it is, accomplishment that we have. And no, it might not be on the world stage, but I tell you what, as I think back of that feelings that I had that day, just as meaningful and just as inspiring and just as life-changing to some extent. Here's a picture of us. I don't think this was the same meet. I love the milk carton dais there, a little different than we've seen at some of the major competitions, but there's yours truly on the top, number one. And I think that's Wayne in third place. I think this was a different invitational the next year. So finished up my career at Bonneville High School. Let's get one more old picture from the Ogden Standard. My wife pulled this out the other day and went, wow, where was that? You know, I love that hair, and I love the, you know, that's about a good 60 pounds ago, 50 pounds ago. From Bonneville High School. Fortunately, I was running well enough to get recruited. Went to BYU, ran there for 4 years, and while there, had an opportunity to compete in many international competitions. This is me at the World Cross Country Championships. That's me on the far right. I guess, so you're right? Yeah, my right. You're right. With a kid from Spain and a guy from Russia. Don't we all look like we're, yeah, we kind of look that way. Anyway, so, and was able to, for the next, from the time I was about 25 to almost 40, ran professionally, which is kind of a weird thing to do for a career. I was a runner. I ran in marathons, I ran in 10Ks, I ran in half marathons, and that's how we paid the bills. That's how we took care of the mortgage. Had an opportunity to run in 2 Olympic Games over that time, 1988 in Seoul, Korea, and in 1992 in Barcelona, Spain. Just as I was starting to get old and slow, fortunately, my old college coach at BYU retired, and they just said, hey, let's pull in Ed Eyestone, since he's now retiring from competitive running. One thing that was kind of my big break was prior to starting as a full-time coach and ending my running career when I was still running, I started working at Weber State. And I was able to work here at Weber State as an assistant coach for about 2.5, 3 years with a great coach and mentor by the name of Chick Hislop, who I learned a lot from. And as that was kind of wrapping up, I had the opportunity to move on down to Provo. Now, down at Provo, I get to work with amazing student athletes, just like they work with amazing student athletes here. I've done that since the year 2000, and so that's been, what, 26 plus years that I've been down there. And I was going to tell you a little story about, since the Olympics, I know the Olympics were 2 years ago, but it's close enough in recent memory to kind of tell you a few stories about some of the remarkable athletes that I get a chance to work with. The first two are Connor Mantz and Clayton Young. Connor on the left, Clayton on the right. Two very different athletes, but who have found a way to work together to heighten the opportunities and heighten the performance of each other. We'll start with Clayton on the right, there in the white. Clayton was, I think, an electrical engineer major at BYU. While running for me, he won a national championship in the 10,000 meters, which is 25 laps, which is 6.2 miles, the most exciting event in track and field. As such, when he graduated, he was pretty well sought after by some of the major shoe companies, and he got himself a shoe contract. Now, it wasn't the biggest shoe contract in the world because winning the 10,000 meters, that's a big deal, but it's not the biggest deal, and he hadn't been that consistent his senior year, but he still was able to get a shoe contract that allowed him to continue running. He went to graduate school while he was still doing it, so it was good things, but he was kind of had injuries back and forth, so he really wasn't doing anything too amazing other than trying to stay healthy and try to win a few races here and there and pay the bills. About 2-3 years later, one of his younger teammates also graduated. His name was Connor Mantz. Now, Connor, he was firing on all cylinders. He graduated having been a 2-time national champion in cross country and having done very well in track. People thought he was the next great thing coming along. And also an electrical engineer, graduated. And the two of them, you know, Clayton was the older one, kind of bossing him around when he was just a freshman. So I don't know that they really had a love for one another. But lo and behold, they both stuck around. Connor got a much bigger shoe contract, one that was going to allow him to not have to do anything else. He was just going to be, you know, just run the occasional race and he'd be fine. He could buy a house, do some other things. Clayton was scrappy and trying to keep things better, and Connor was kind of in a little better position. But the two of them, despite their differences, started working out together, doing good workouts together, and as a result of them running together, they became better and better as the individuals became better as a group as a result of working with each other. And lo and behold, their friendship grew as they went through. Now Connor, the one in the blue, since he was a little faster runner, he would just totally destroy Clayton in almost every workout. Clayton was left in the dust. And his self-esteem sometimes, I think, was a little down because he was getting worked by Connor on a regular basis. But he hung in there. He did well. The one thing that Clayton could do better than Connor is time in the sauna. We spend some time in the sauna, and you think that's a pretty passive kind of workout, but it actually produces some extra EPO, and you get some bang for your buck by spending the time in the sauna. And Clayton could kick his butt in the sauna. He could stay longer in hotter temperatures than him. You know, so not the best trade-off, but it was still something that he was better than Connor at. And Connor kind of aspired, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try to stay in here for 25 minutes if you're going for 35. And so they helped one another in that regard. So coming up to the Olympics. Now, the way the U.S. chooses their team is they don't choose the 2 fastest guys or the 3 fastest guys necessarily. You could be the American record holder and not necessarily make the team. The way the U.S. makes choose their team is you have an Olympic trials where you might have the top 100 guys in the country show up, and then you shoot the gun, and the first 3 guys across the finish line are on the Olympic team. So in some ways, it's the most democratic of all ways because you avoid a committee, you avoid favoritism, you avoid the subjectivity that exists in some sports. In some ways, you don't think it's really not that fair. In their case, they were the only 2 runners in the country who had run a time 2:08 or faster that qualified for the Olympics. So the Olympics is a two-step process. 1, you have to finish in the top 3. 2, you have to be in the top 3 and have an Olympic qualifying time under 2:08. So going into the trials, these 2 were the only 2 that had the qualifying time. So one would have thought, oh, well, all I have to do is finish the race even in 99th and 100th. And since they have the qualifying time, they would be the first 2 with the qualifying time, so they would go. Well, USA Track and Field, just weeks before, said, no, we're not going to do that. It's not going to be exciting for TV if we say the 88th and 90th guy are on the team. It's going to only be exciting if the number 1 and number 2 are on the team. So tell you what, those times that they earned from their performances at the Chicago Marathon, we're going to just offer to the first 2 guys across the finish line. So we didn't think that was real fair, but we had to go with it. And so we just said, okay, guys, there's some extra pressure. You earned these, now go defend your titles. Let's go defend those titles. And so we had some specific marching orders. I'm gonna pull up, let's see, have I stashed my glasses somewhere? Oh, there you go, thank you. See, I'm at that certain age, yeah, dang. So we had this plan. The plan was chill, cover, and close, okay? Chill, cover, close. Okay, chill just meant that Connor Mance, if it was up to him, he would just go out super hard right from the start, burn everybody out. But the problem with that is for 26 miles, if you deplete your glycogen by going out too hard too early, then you run out of gas and you have to walk the last 6 miles and you get passed by a bunch of guys. I didn't want that to happen, so I wanted them to chill, okay? Just let somebody else lead. You don't have to lead. Let somebody else lead. You sit right behind them. It's easier to run if you're running behind somebody to run. 2, cover. If any big moves happen, yeah, you got to go with the move. Don't let them run away from you. Close the gap. Mind the gap. And then finally so chill, cover, and then close. Okay. At the end, you got to close. You got to close fast. You're strong enough. We've done the workouts to get you there. Let's close. Let's watch a couple snippets of the race. Okay. This is Olympic trials. This is early on. This is where they've just moved from the chill phase, about mile 18. And now there was a group of about 20 of them running together. And then sure enough, this Zach Panning, he ended up taking the lead. And he was the guy pushing. And there in red is Clayton with the sunglasses. And Connor is a little shorter right behind him. I think this will play. There we go. Connor's in the white. Clayton's in the red. They're chilling somewhat. And then at this point, they're actually covering a move because now there's no longer a pack of 20 guys. It's down to 4 or 5 guys. And this is at mile 18. So still a lot of racing with 8 miles to go. So that's to perfection so far, but the last 6 miles, 8 miles, things can happen. They hit 22 miles. That's when I said, green light, take the lead. If you're feeling good, you got 4 miles to push it from there. So right on clockwork, hit 22 miles, and Connor makes a big move. And it looks good. And Clayton, sure enough, he's not quite as good, but he's good in the sauna. He makes the move with him, and the two of them are able to break. Thing is, we're in Orlando, Florida. It's hot. It's humid. So having that sauna skill was not a bad skill to have. And so we're going to fast forward here to about 22 miles, 23 miles, and we're going to see what's happening.
His training partner, Connor Manson, they have dropped Zach Panning.
Dropped Zach Panning,
Zach was trying to go with him,
but now it's Clayton in the lead, Connor right with him, and lo and behold, we're at 23 miles, so we got 3 miles to go. As long as they're in the top 2 or 3, they're going to be okay. And Connor started struggling a little bit. And Connor was the one that was having a hard time keeping up with Clayton, the sauna king. and it looked like, unless they help each other here, it might get a little dramatic. And sure enough, I think Clayton could feel that this isn't usual to have Connor behind me. He's usually the guy grinding the pace, and I'm just holding on for dear life. And so rather than just leaving him at that point in time, they kind of formed this alliance and went, listen, if we work together, we're going to get through these last 3 miles. Lo and behold, they worked together for the next 2 miles. Clayton got Connor through the rough spot, and then this is how it finished.
Day by day to make this moment happen right now.
Okay, who's looking better in those two? Okay, the sauna king is looking great. They're running together. At this point in time, Connor is just looking at the finish line. The guy in white, Connor, he's just going for the finish line. Clayton's enjoying that. He enjoys life. He's hyping the crowd up.
Panning in the background, but these two teammates from Utah are going to go. And Leonard Correa now has come to put the...
I'm on a bike at this point in time, and I've gone back and forth through various places, seen them about 6 or 8 times, and now they're finishing. I know they're going to make the team. I figure they're maybe just hold hands and cross together. Clayton is talking to Connor. Connor can't hear a word because there's so many. They're running through a wall of people. Connor's just trying to get to the finish line. And I think what happens here at the end, he says, I don't even know what he said. And Connor said, I'm getting to the finish line before I collapse. And they run through. And Clayton, he says, you know what? You got me here. Let's take this. Let's enjoy this. And that was as a coach, yeah, give him a hand. I'll tell him that you applauded that. So they were 1-2 at the Olympic trials with, hundreds of thousands of people who run. That was one of my favorite coaching days. And there they are embracing one another. And they became very, very good friends after that. And it's interesting because the two of them, since that time, prepared, run races together. And they always finish pretty much within about 20 seconds of each other. If they were running a 10K or a half marathon, Connor in white might be more than a minute or 2 ahead of Clayton, but over the marathon distance, the differences are shortened. And so this was fun. What was nice is when I got home, my daughter, who had been watching the games at home, put her college education totally in use and all the tuition that we've been paying. And this is what was awaiting us as we came back. I thought it was awesome. This was a recreation of the finish right here. She made this nice cake with a recreation of the finish. And if you open it up, we had the American flag there because they were going off to the Olympics. Isn't that awesome? So don't neglect your cooking skills, folks. It was fun. Okay, quick little thing. Manson Young lead. Bring individual strengths to the process. That's what they did. They formed alliances that made the team better, didn't they? I mean, yeah, Clayton brought to the table. He was a good runner in the sauna. Connor was good at running all the other things. But together, they came together and they made the best out of the situation. Have a plan, okay? That's what they did, to chill, cover, and close. That was their plan. And then plan your race and race your plan. Sometimes we make plans, and then when the gun goes off, we forget what the plan was. Okay, tell you a quick story about this guy here. This guy's name's Kenneth Rooks. Kenneth Brooks is a steeplechaser. Steeplechase is one of the more interesting events in track and field. It involves not only running 3,000 meters, which is a little less than 2 miles, it also involves jumping over hurdles, but these hurdles are not hurdles that knock over, these are barriers. They're like 4x4 blocks that are 3 feet high. And not only do they have barriers, but one of them has a water jump just to make it interesting, right? And so over the course of 2 miles, essentially, they're jumping over 35 barriers, and these barriers, if you hit one, you're the one that goes down, not the barrier. And so what I'm going to show you is this kid, Kenneth Brooks. Kenneth Brooks came to me from Walla Walla, Washington. He was kind of a walk-on sort of situation. He took to the steeplechase because he felt like he had his best chance to travel if he did well on that. And over the course from his freshman to senior year, he went from being someone who just barely made the travel squad to being All-American his sophomore year. And his junior year, he actually won the NCAA championships. Big deal. And then shortly after that, he went from the college race to the U.S. Championship. So the college race, that's called the NCAA Championships. He won that. There's a lot of good runners in the NCAA. But the the USA Championship is where you take all the pros and they come together, and there's only a few college guys that qualify for that. So Kenneth qualified for the U.S. Championships by winning the NCAA Championships, but he was one of the only college guys who made the final. They have prelims and then final. So he found himself running in the final of the USA Outdoor Championships. Now, this was a big race because if he finished in the top 3, he would go to the World Championships, which would be a great preparation for the Olympics the next year. And so he was at this race. He was in the final. You see him there in white and blue, okay, white and blue, right in the middle of the screen. And like I say, you can see him coming up on a barrier here. And as I said, if you hit one of these barriers, well, let's watch and see what happens. Focus on the guy in the white and the blue.
Watch the white singlet, blue shorts.
Guy in front of him balks. The guy, and it really wasn't his fault because it was the guy in front of him just kind of stopped, and so that left him high and dry, and he just kind of did a barrel roll. And not only one barrel roll, but he did a couple rolls after that, okay? And he got up, and look how far he is. He's about 4 seconds back from, well, a couple seconds back from the last place, and probably another 2 seconds back from so 4 or 5 seconds back into a race, not against a bunch of schmoes. These are really good guys. These are the professional guys. We had a few Olympians in here, and they've got this huge head start, and this is already almost halfway through the race. And if I could show the whole thing, we would see him gradually. Now, I was in the stands. I'm an optimistic guy, and I don't say a lot of bad words, but sometimes I will pull one out when something bad happens. And I probably said one of those bad words. It wasn't one of the really bad words, but it was one of the, kind of bad words that you wouldn't want to say in church. And when that happened, I just remember going, darn. And I kind of pulled my hat down and just kind of sat down and went, ugh. And then my first thought was, I'm glad this isn't the Olympic trials next year, because, if he misses out on the World Championships, that's one thing, but next year would be the Olympics, and he fell. And then I just kind of proceeded to watch. And as I watched, I was impressed because rather than when you fall like that, sometimes you get right back up and then you sprint and get back with the leaders, but then you are dead because you went way too hard. But rather than doing that, he had the presence of mind to little by little run a little faster, and over the course, he still had about 3.5 laps to go. Over the course of the next 3.5 laps, he was able to reattach first to the end guy, and then gradually pass one, gradually pass another, and with 1 lap to go, he was in about 5th or 6th place, and I was going, bless his heart, he worked really hard, but now he's not going to have the kick at the end because he's had to use that to catch up. Well, let's watch what happens. Okay, I think this
1,000-meter race, and this was significantly into the race.
Okay, now at this point, we fast forward, and this is what
he did at the NCAA
now the last 200 meters. He had battled to get back in position. This is when I'm thinking, oh, he tried so hard, but now he's not going to have the gas to be in the top 3. He needs to be in the top 3 to have a chance to go. Oh my goodness, that was a good water jump. Come on, buddy. All right, just hold on. Just beat one of those guys. Just beat one of those guys. Oh, that was a good hurdle. Okay, keep going. And then he finished all the way. And going from last place to first place,
How about that? Also
And
for
a
Isaac
lot of
Loctite.
people saw that race. In fact, I've
see
had
it
a
on the
lot of
right-hand
kids
side of
run
your
and
screen.
win
Clearing
national
that final
championships.
barrier
This was
and
not just the
storming
college
home down the
championships,
stretch
it was
through
the
the nine
U.S.
race.
championships against all the pros. And I had so many people come up to me after and said, I will tell that story for as long as I live about falling and then getting up. Kenneth Rook's leadership principles, plan for contingencies. What people don't know about that story is 2 weeks before we were doing a workout, he was running a workout and he fell in practice. And then when he finished that rep, we talked about it, and he said, what would I do if I did that in the race? And I said, well, the smartest thing would be to not stay down, to get back up, and then gradually try to build back in. And he said, okay, I'm going to make a mental note. And he also is an engineer. He filed that note, and then he delivered on that vote, on that. So plan for contingencies, have a plan A, plan B, and then when things go awry, adapt and adjust. That's what he did. I mean, his plan was to be probably in the top 5 and then use his kick, but he adapted, he adjusted, and he had planned for that. Okay, I'm going to show this race here because this is a year forward from this. By now, he's the big man on campus. He had won the U.S. championships, and now we're at the Olympic trials. Okay, he had an injury earlier on, but he had worked through that. He was now back in great shape. We're going to fast forward to the last lap. Now, in the meantime, there was one of his little BYU teammates here who had been training and had made it to the NCAA meet, was not even an All-American, meaning he finished outside the top 8. He was in the final, but he got 9th or 10th in the final. But then he had run fast enough to make it to the Olympic trials. And then he ran fast enough in the Olympic trials to make the Olympic trials final. Now, if he could finish in the top 3, he'd be on the team. But he knew he was not in shape like Kenneth was, but he figured, I'll run my own race from behind. I'll do as best as I can, see if I can't finish. Maybe I can finish the top 10 or so in here. And let's watch what happens in the last lap of this race. Okay, Kenny has broken the pack open. 1 lap to go. Back in the back in about 7th or 8th place is good for him. Bless his heart. He's doing great. James Corrigan with a lap to go. At this point in time, I know Kenneth has it made. I'm thinking, well, maybe James back there. It's still not in the screen. We only have about 200 meters. And lo and behold, James starts moving on the outside. Had a good barrier there. Kenneth has run away from it. And then, oh my goodness, James. And he moved from 8th place to 3rd place in the last 300 meters. I love this also because if you listen to the commentators, they're talking about 1st and 2nd place. There's a long pause because they have no idea who this guy in 3rd place is. He's not one of the favorites.
Rooks in 8:21 across the line over Wilkinson. Matthews done it, and then coming across behind them.
No idea.
James Corrigan.
James Corrigan. Okay, he finally got to it.
Kenneth Rooks' training partner gets 3rd.
Okay, and just in case you ever want to know what a coach is doing during this, a friend of mine was there. We were in the seats. We were all excited for Kenneth. Obviously, we felt like he had a good chance of making the team. But James, we were just hoping, he wouldn't embarrass the BYU Legacy brand by being last in the final. I mean, making the final was still amazing, even making it. And then we know that Kenny's probably got it in the bag, and then we see that move on the backstretch where he's passed about 5 people. And so my friend who had his camera just turned it. Watch this. And there's a guy that we go by who has a kind of tie-dye shirt and holding a beer. It was holding a full beer at the time. When we passed him, he was no longer holding the full beer. And it's not because we drank it, but here we go.
Let's go, Kenny, come on.
We're watching. Kenny's doing great.
Look at James!
We're yelling, look at James. We don't care about Kenny anymore. It's all, look at James. Tie-dye, beer all over him now.
He's going to Paris!
I came back and apologized later.
They're both going, sorry.
So James Corrigan, leadership principles, use available resources. He was able to train with Kenneth. He trusted the pace and telling him, okay, don't go crazy, just try to pick up guys at the end. And he was naive. He believed, actually, that it could happen. Even though 2 weeks before, he hadn't been an All-American, hadn't scored for us at the conference meet, but he believed he could do it. And then when I got home, this was waiting for us again. My daughter came through with another Olympic cake. And these are all the good principles. Okay, fast forward, we went to Paris, great trip, obviously. They've made it there. So that's such a relief to make it there because that's everyone's goal is to make it there. But then for some people, it's not enough just to have the goal of making it. They want to do very well. I love this. The important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. The important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. A great motto for all of us. I love that. But then again, and also kudos to that mustache. I'm still working on that. It's going to take me another 60 years to get there. And if we fast forward to our guys, that's Connor Mance, Clayton Young. They finished 8th and 9th at the Olympic Games, and it was a great experience for them. They ran a fast time, maybe ran a little conservative. And then we'll watch Kenneth here because Kenneth, again, let me lay the groundwork for this, and then we'll watch the video. And get ready for that in a second. But here we see Kenneth. Kenneth Brooks, again, it's an honor to go to the Olympics. Just making it there, it's great. He ran in the prelim. We weren't sure he was going to advance. He advanced. He got second place in his heat. That was great. But going into the final, there were 16 other athletes, 15 of whom were faster than him. I mean, there were 16 athletes in that final, 15 of whom were faster than him, had PRs faster than him. Included in that final was the world record holder, Girma from Ethiopia. 2 of his teammates, who they could do team tactics with, who were also very fast. Girma's PR, I think, was about 20 seconds. Let's see, was it 12? 25 seconds faster than Kenneth's PR, Girma's was. And then the other guy who was even better than Girma, really, was El Bakali, who's a tall runner from Morocco who had won the previous Olympics and then won 2 world championships before that. So he's the best competitor there is in it, even though he hadn't run the fast. But he was only at like 2 seconds slower than Girma's world record time, so about 22 seconds faster than Kenneth's PR or personal record. So they went into that. And so the strategy going in is, hey, if they go out hard and they may use team tactics, they may be running 62 seconds per lap. If you run 62 seconds or 63 seconds per lap, that's world record pace. You're not quite ready for that. But odds are they're not going to win a world record at a major championship where it's hot and just all those things together. So let's just run a pace that we think we can run and sustain, and you're still going to PR. And if you run 8:06, 8:07, I don't see you being outside the top 5. Okay, you got a shot, if you're top 5. And so the race starts off, and the first 3 laps, I'm going, I messed up here. Because, yes, they did go out in 62s or 63s. And Kenneth stuck to his plan, running 64s or 65. He was dead last of the 16. And for the first 2 or 3 laps, still dead last. And then he passed one guy. He passed a Canadian. Great. And so now he's in 15th place, and I'm going, I held him back. And he's so good. Why did I do that? Just let him do. I mean, he's awesome. Why did I hold him back? And then things started getting interesting. And can we go to the video? Let's go to the video. Okay. And we'll see what happens here.
One more final on the track this evening. It's the men's steeplechase. We're going to pick up the final third of this thrilling finish. Lee Diffie, joined on the call by Kara Gauscher.
Inside the final 3 laps here in Stade de France for the final of the men's steeplechase. And Kenya now goes to the front.
Kenny's still not in the picture here.
Uganda.
Starts moving up.
El Bakali sits back
3
in
laps
about
to go.
7th. He's the tallest athlete in this field. Easy
World
to
record
spot.
holder right
Kenneth
here.
Brooks, the only American, is coming up.
The
on
Olympic
back of
champion
the
right here.
defending gold medalist in the closing stages of this
And
one.
sure enough,
Al-Bakali is just following
the pace had gone out super
Ethiopia.
fast, and then the guys
He
who were
knows
doing
he's
team
the man
tactics
who could rain on his
said,
parade,
this is
and
too
he just
fast.
wants
I don't
stay
want to
in
be the
contact with
sacrificial
him.
lamb, so they slowed it down.
There
And
we
suddenly,
see Girma right
the pack
there,
compresses.
And Al-Bakali just making sure he stays in contact with him. Kenneth Brooks knows Girma is the key to a medal, so he is also now positioning himself behind Gurma and right behind Al-Bakkali. He
Now
knows
we're
those are
down
the
to
two
2 laps
men
to go,
who are
and it's
gonna weave
anybody's
their
race.
way through this in these last 2 final laps.
Even though he
And
had
this
been
is
last
really
place
heady
for the
stuff
first
for
5,
Kenneth
6
Brooks.
laps,
Last
he's now
year,
right in the...
He won the NCAA championship in steeplechase for BYU. Here he is at the Olympics, running side by side with the defending gold medalist, the biggest names in the sport.
Look at the bunching. This has slowed down.
World
quite
and
a
Olympic
bit, and
champion
that's why
running
we
right
see
next to his
Kenneth Brooks and
shoulder.
all these
World
people
record
bunching
holder up
up.
about 3 spots.
This is when we might see a fall. This is
Lap
very
and a half to
dangerous
go.
territory when we have all these men with their tired legs here, heading with only a lap and a half to go.
Yep. 2 more water jumps.
Kenya, he's in the mix. The 21-year-old made his world championship debut last year. Now he's in his first Olympics and running well. Look at Kenneth Brooks
We just
in the
lost.
red, white, and blue. He's feeling good coming to the bell lap.
1 lap to go.
Kenneth Brooks, he likes his chances. He's feeling good and he's in the top 4.
This is the kind of race that Kenneth Brooks wanted, a wind-up, and look at him now going to the front, not being you just thought for you look over at him saying, who are you? And Kenneth Brooks of the United States is leading the men's steeplechase.
The 24-year-old from Washington has said, you want your medal? Come catch me.
Lee, the significant
World record
can't
holder
even
and the
begin
Olympic
to describe,
champion
and
fighting
we
with
see
each
Gurma
other. Boom!
in the fall.
He's
Gurma
down.
and
That's the world record holder is down.
To chase down Kenneth Brooks.
Oh my goodness! Kenneth Brooks and the defending gold medalist. There's a breakaway group of 3, and Kenneth Brooks has a legitimate chance of medaling. They come off the final turn, and Sufyan Al-Bakkali has done what he always does, and comes from nowhere. And Kenneth Brooks is resilient. He's racing for that silver. Al-Bakkali defends his gold, and Brooks gets silver. Team USA medals with authority.
We were all shocked. Tears of joy. Every time I watch that, I still get emotional. It's crazy. I've seen it a few times, you can guess. But that was huge. And again, showing that if you have a plan and it's the right plan and you can pull it off and be patient,
Chases the Olympic champion down.
good things can happen.
And Al-Bakkali of Morocco defends his gold from Tokyo.
I love his little shimmy dance.
But
I
he
love
was
the-
surprised at how he
Kenny's
had to
looking
come
around for
that.
somebody to
he
hug.
was not expecting American Kenneth Brooks to take it
And
to the
I
entire
love this little lift.
field there
There we go.
and make a race out of this. Kenneth Brooks at only his 2nd global championship
Anyway,
decided he was going to go to
that's
the
probably-
front. You know, he talked about it. He
That's probably good. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Technical. Yeah, wasn't that fun? That was fun. And obviously, as a coach, that's about all you could ask for. Here's some pictures of Kenny making. He took a victory lap that literally took an hour. So there were probably 80,000 people in the stadium. By the time he finished, it was pretty much empty. And I don't know if this one. Can we get this? Is this? Get it? Yeah, let's run this. Somebody, again, same guy. No, different lady with different camera. Watch me again. Okay, this is. Watch him come off the last hurdle. Little body language here. Get over that one. Okay. Yes, there you go. So I still got my hops, and I'm sure it was that little move that got him over that last hurdle as well. So here's Kenny. Like I say, by the time he finished his victory lap, there we are. The stadium's empty. My wife there crying, and one of my assistants there. But that was a great day. And if you wanted to see one of those Olympic medals up close, there you go. And there we go. That's it. The important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. The important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. And it's also fun if you do win or get second place. I'll just testify to that. So thank you very much. I know Teresa said we had until 8. We don't necessarily need to stay. That's about all I got. But happy to have had the opportunity to talk to you guys. She said there were some mics here if you had any questions. I know we've been here a long time, but if there are any questions, whether you use the mic or not, that's great, or you can just shout, whatever. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Johnny.
So, Ed, my understanding is you have 6 beautiful daughters.
I do.
I understand there's a propensity for long-distance runners to have girls. Can you explain the science behind that?
I think that's an apocryphal saying, but it certainly is true in my case. They said the same thing about pilots. I had heard the same thing, but I'm not sure if that's the case. But among my running friends, the majority of us that were having kids were having daughters, and so I don't know about maybe it's the XX chromosome are a little bit hardier or something than that. Or the XYs are killed off from all our stupid training. I don't know what that would be my guess, Johnny. But you're the doctor, for heaven's sakes. You run a study, okay? Yeah, question.
So a few weeks ago, 2 guys went under 2 hours in the marathon in London, and a lot has been made about their shoes, the Nike shoes that they wore. Just wondering what you think about that and how much you think the shoes make a difference.
Yeah, a good point. And actually, just a point of clarification, they were Adidas shoes, not Nike shoes. Nike would like to claim those shoes because they were $500 a piece. You can get those shoes, but you got to dish out $500, and they last all of about one race. And yes, there has been, starting in 2016, the shoe technology was changed. In fact, it was kind of interesting because Jared Ward was a guy I was coaching who finished 6th at the Olympic Games in 2016. He was wearing Saucony and everybody in front. Nike was at the head of the curve in terms of these super shoes that have a midsole or a carbon fiber plate in the middle, and then they have an extra kind of cushioning foam that allows for this, and there's a certain height. Whatnot. So yes, some of the monster gains that we've seen are a result of the technology of the shoes. I think World Athletics probably made a mistake when they said, yeah, we're going to go with these shoes and we're going to allow that, because now it's become a shoe race. And to some extent, some of it is now that we're training in those super shoes as well. So recovery is more, so you can do more work without getting as injured. So I think that plays into it. I think these shoes are worth at least 2 minutes probably, and that's being conservative. It might be more than that, 2-3 minutes onto your time. So there's a market for that because everyone who's running marathons wants to run faster, so they're going to be able to sell some shoes, and whether it be Nike or Adidas has the latest incarnation. Nike there's kind of a shoe war going on. So yes, that comes into play. I think that also nutrition has a lot to do with it. There's a sodium bicarb that now people are taking that's in a way that you can take it without doing the intestinal distress that you would if you're just trying to take baking soda that's buffering the lactic acid a little bit better. So I think it's a combination of that. Pharmaceuticals are coming into play. The fact of the matter is that some people are cheating. Now, I'm not saying that these 2 people were, but I'm all for testing and more testing. And actually the man who won that race has been tested on a regular basis, but so was Lance Armstrong. So I'm just saying there's a lot kind of coming into play. But it certainly is amazing to see the limitations going through the roof. Because I was asked, back when they broke 2:05, like at the end of my career, they said, well, so when are they going to break 2? And I was going, that's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes. That's a long time. At the time, there were only 3 people who had run under 1 hour for a half marathon. So to expect them to double that distance I said, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. Okay, it has happened in my lifetime, and they're going to go faster still. But part of that, it'd be interesting to see how fast they would run if they were in the old shoes before the super shoe came out. But those are the rules, so let's go for it and let's enjoy it. What's difficult is just for us old timers to recalibrate our brains on what is fast. Because I used to think, oh yeah, 2:10 is fast. Now it's 2:03 is fast. And I need to recalibrate. I think we all need to recalibrate on occasion. Okay, here's this buddy here. We discovered before when we were meeting. He's a trombone player, and he can get 7th position. So all you trombone players out there can appreciate that. Nobody who doesn't play gets that, but that's good. Yeah, go ahead. Use this one. It looks like it's working. Or you can just call it out, nice and loud.
What do you think the best information for the youth today is?
Best information. Well, I got some of what I was meeting from you guys before, and that is to show up. I mean, that's a big thing, is to show up. I love the fact that that's one of the things that came out, is because I think you need to show up. And we show up in ways of not just showing up on your phone, because that's what we're at. I mean, even the old guys now spend a lot of time on the phone. If we can kind of be present, I think is one of the main things. And consistency is, one of my little formulas that my guys get tired of hearing is C squared equals E squared, which is consistent competence equals eventual excellence. So you don't have to be great, really, but you have to be consistent at being good. And if you're consistently good or consistently competent, which just means, yeah, you're pretty good at doing something, you're not bad. If you're consistently good at studying, at playing the trombone, doing your practicing, whatever it is, or running, in my case, what I have to deal with is people running and doing workouts. If they're consistently good, then eventually they hit excellence, or at least they become better. C squared equals E squared is kind of again, one of my little things that my guys go, oh, you're talking consistency again, coach? But just try to be consistent in the good things in your life, and great things are going to happen. Great question. Okay, I think I've taken all of the time, and you guys have cleared all your plates, and I'm going to turn the time back over to Mr. Ardema. So let's hear it, and thank you very much, guys.
What a treat to have Coach Eyestone. Thank you so much for your words. One more time for Coach Eyestone. And before we leave tonight, just one more time, I want to thank Youth Impact for being here, and let's give them a round of applause for our future. I realized as I was sitting, I made a serious omission. I forgot to recognize the Stewart Education Foundation for sponsoring tonight's event. So let's give it up to the Stewart Education Foundation. So thank you for coming. It was such a pleasure to have you here tonight. Tomorrow morning we begin again at 7 a.m. Is that right, Teresa? So if you didn't hear that, don't throw away the glasses. Everything else is good. Don't throw away the glasses. Thank you.